It's so frustrating to me that it doesn't it has to show our face for 2 seconds before it plays the intro.
It
Um,
does?
yeah. So it's just like from the countdown to us sitting there for like 2 seconds and then
Just
the
dead-eyed
intro video.
staring.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Um,
I had no idea.
but anyway, welcome to Crack Movie Club, the show where we do a book club, but for movies, which are like books but better. I'm your host, Jordan Breeding, and I'm joined by my co-host, Allie, because Jesse has abandoned me. So, hi.
Sometimes your kids grow up and you have to learn to adjust.
Not my kids. They're
Not
gonna
my
live
kids, never my kids.
they're gonna live here forever. All right. So if you haven't watched us before, we are live, which means that you can say things to us and it'll hurt my feelings in real time.
That's really
Um,
good. You
yeah,
can watch his face fall
yeah.
in
I'll
real
and
time.
not only is Jesse not here, but Brian, who tends to run these comments, is also not here. So I will be trying to do both at the same time, which means it's going to be the worst podcast. So get
That's
excited.
great. That's sort
Um,
of like when I'm at my work where I have like classes with little kids. If one teacher needs to go do something, like sometimes we'll be like have to like quickly cast like the movie we're making or whatever. We'll always be like, okay, I'm gonna go do this. You can ask Paul any question you want. And like suddenly the kids have like all the responsibility in the world of they can ask any question they've ever wanted. So they choke and they don't know what to ask anymore.
right.
And they'll just be like, are you 20?
Yeah.
I'll be like, yes. I'm 20. I'm
I'm
20.
20.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So just ask everybody's questions.
Yeah, well, okay, so but that's the deal, right? So if anybody has any observations, any questions, anything like that, any alternate titles for this movie besides The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is what we're talking about today, and I'm going to make that banner pop up, which is another thing that I have to do myself. There it is. Ta-da! It's the Nic
Ta-da!
Cage movie. Just throw it in the comments, and I will do my best to observe that. But
Good job. I
no
can, you know what?
promises.
I normally don't, but I will keep an eye on the comments today.
It doesn't. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. That's always that's sort of my refrain.
That's a good way to start this. Let people
Yeah,
know that we've given up entirely.
yeah. So to start, I'm gonna do. We didn't discuss this ahead of time. Can you do the recap?
Sure. Okay. So
Recap it for us.
recap. Nic Cage, played by Nic Cage, the famous actor, is at an impasse with his career. He's not getting the roles he wants. He wants to keep working, but his desire to keep working is at odds with his continuing estrangement from his family. He has a 16-year-old daughter who he does not get along with and is recently divorced from his wife. Because he is at his lowest and really needs some money, he accepts an unconventional offer to go to his biggest fan's birthday party, which is in Mallorca, for $1 million. And normally he'd be like, I would never do that. I'm a serious actor. But because he owes lots of money and really needs something to do, he goes. While he is there, he is intercepted by the CIA, who say, hey, the guy you're hanging with actually is like a cartel head and also interferes with elections to make sure they're more cartel friendly. And also, we suspect has kidnapped the president's daughter, the president of Spain's daughter,
Yeah, I think so.
something like that. So you got to go like explore his house and find her. So he is at odds with needing to be undercover, but also genuinely enjoying the company of this weird, eccentric millionaire, billionaire who's a huge fan of his. And also wants to just get back to acting, which is his passion and his love. And so it all blows up, so to speak, when his family is flown out to Mallorca, and then they all get ensnared in the CIA drama. And that's it.
That's good. I'm
Is
sorry.
that good?
I'm pulling double duty. That is all true. There are shoots with guns. There are lots and lots of references to Nic Cage movies. Because to be clear, again, this is Nic Cage as Nic Cage playing Nic Cage. It is like being John Malkovich, but it's being Nic Cage, and there are
Yes.
fewer people in his head, I suppose. Although there is somebody in his head. So usually what we do is I explain or somebody explains why we're watching this movie. And we're watching this movie because A, we're trying to be cool. We're trying to be relevant. We're trying to do new movies every once in a
That's
while.
very Nic Cage of us to be
Yeah,
It's striving for relevance.
at least Nicky Cage, his alter ego in this movie. And then the other reason is I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a Nick Cage fan in any particular weird way that some people seem to be, but I have generally liked all of his movies, and the concept is just really fun. Plus, it's got Pedro Pascal from The Mandalorian, and he's a man with a sexy little coat, and
I just adore him so much.
yeah.
Like when I left the movie, I was like, am I one of his biggest fans? I think he's just so good. Like, not to not to start a discussion about a movie about Nick Cage with the other actor, but like, I think he has a really unique ability that only some actors have to like really be like what I would call a genre player. Like, you can really drop them into a very specific genre and they like meet the tone and expectations perfectly, which in
Yeah.
a movie like this is weird and necessary because you have to believe him equally as this threatening guy who might be behind the scenes kidnapping girls and, you know,
Right.
manning elections, but also as this like puppy-eyed, like lovely young dope who like just wants a friend and is very lonely and isolated and like needs, like, he like plays the goofiness and he plays the disarming comedic character. He's doing Paul Rudd in I Love You Man, but he's also
Right.
doing sort of like a nod to like the character he played on like on Narcos for such a long time. Like, he can be all the genres very easily and like that fast.
Right.
I love
I
him.
I agree. I mean, he's playing kind of that character. Like, we've gotten villains like this before, which is, they're evil. I mean, a stupid. I don't know why this jumps to mind. Have you seen The Interview, where they go to North Korea to
I have
kill
never
Kim
seen
Jong
it. I
Un?
know what you're talking about, but I like never. I heard it was
It's
bad, so I never bothered.
it's pretty stupid. But the
Yeah.
whole thing about Kim Jong Un is that he's like, I mean, he's still Kim Jong Un. He's still evil or whatever. But he's like, he's trying to show how cool he is and like make friends with them. But the whole time he like comes across as a really nice guy. I think it's played by the guy from Ant-Man, the detective or whatever. Anyway,
Oh, yes, from Veep and everything.
yeah, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
What?
he is,
Randall Park.
yes, right, I think. And anyway, he's just like a nice guy, but then he also happens to be a horrible
Yeah,
person. But what's
totally.
funny is that it never actually pans out that way. Pedro Pascal is not, in
A
fact, a
horrible
villain,
person.
but he has to play enough of the possibility that he could be that we get some twists along the way and stuff like that. And I agree. I actually think the best thing about Pedro Pascal in this, I think he almost ups Nick Cage. Like, I think
Yeah.
he upstages him in a lot of ways.
There's actually, when we were looking for a trivia, there was a part that I read that when Nick Cage originally read the script, he thought that Javi was the best written character in the movie, so much so that he even asked to trade parts because he thought that being his own biggest fan would be almost more meta than playing himself,
Oh,
which is a
sure.
good argument. I'm glad that he played himself because there's like so much about his film ethos.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just such a great, like, I mean, look, they're both good actors, but like there's just something extremely, I was gonna say lovable, but I know you're all gonna read into that. So I'm gonna say like trustable. He has like floppy hair and big brown trustable eyes.
I feel
There's
like,
something about him that's like very inviting. You like want to
God,
be with him.
there's all these naked HD wet girls
Bring
here
him
that keep
in.
popping in keep popping in the chat.
Get him
And
on. I want to hear what their thoughts are.
I can't block them fast enough. Oh my God.
Okay, so look, while you do that, somebody confirmed that it is Randall Park and he's freaking great.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. Randall Park is truly one of our better comedic actors.
Well,
Actors.
yeah, he's probably the best comedian we've got.
Yeah.
I will say, I just think, I think one of the things that's great about Pedro Pascal is he tends to get put in roles where it's like he's supposed to be a really hot, attractive lead, but he kind of looks like a goofball. Like, he doesn't.
Yes. That's
not,
kind of his, I think that's kind of his like superpower, is that he is obviously like an extremely attractive person, but like
Sure.
his leading energy, like the energy that comes through the door, is not one of like sexual machismo or like aggression. Like, he's just sort of like, hey, I'm like, I'm just like here. We should have a beer and go in the pool,
Right.
which
I
like makes
mean,
him more attractive in a way because like you're just like, oh, he's so goofy. He's
yeah.
he's so disarming, which
Well,
is like
because there's
completely the right thing for this character too.
Yeah, and well, it's also like his character in the Wonder Woman sequel that is awful. He's really interesting because he plays the villain in that as well, and it's a very similar vibe where he's sort of like a conflicted. Have you seen it? No.
I have, and I really didn't like it.
Oh my gosh, it was awful. But he also plays that kind of conflicted, like crazy guy. I mean, he's a salesman.
Yeah.
He's a TV
But, like,
show guy,
there
and
was something
it's
about
awesome.
that character that was, like, so manic in a bad way, like, that was, like, the writing
Yeah,
that, like,
sure.
this didn't have that I, like, really appreciated, that he wasn't, like, a guy who was, like,
He's pretty manic in
I mean,
this
yeah,
movie.
they're, like, driving on LSD. But, like, I
Yeah.
guess I mean more, like, in the way that he's not like, "Nic Cage, get in the pool." He's like, "I guess we should if you wanted to, tomorrow we could go to the cliffs and see my
Right.
favorite part of Spain."
Well,
I
he
don't know.
does that, but then when they get to the cliffs, he snaps into his like acting character, whatever he's when he's trying to
Yeah,
get Nick
I
Cage to
love
like act with him.
I have a lot
Um,
to say about, like, the relationship that they have that is, like, also weirdly, like, a meta thing on, like, what is actually fun about acting that isn't the business of acting.
hmm. Is it
So, like
the okay, good. Because I have a thought
n
about that too, actually.
yeah, so, like, okay, so much of the movie is about how people tell you when and where you can make movies and how you can make them and whether or not you can be in them. And that Nick Cage is like, all I want to do is be an actor. I love to act. I'm really good at it. It's my job. No one ever looks at a doctor and says, "You work too much this year." It's like, I wanna act, and, like, acting is the only thing in the world where you can be, like, oversaturated with Nick Cage movies and people don't wanna see you anymore, and he's like, "That's not fair because, like, what makes me happy is acting, I'm an actor."
Yeah,
And then he finds this person who's not only, like, a fan of him, which strokes his ego, but, like, wants to act with him. Not in a way that's like, "We should be actors because we should be millionaires." It's like,
right.
I wanna play with you. They, like,
Mhm.
get into these, like, invented scenarios because it's fun and because they, like, have a deep need deep down to play. Because acting
Right.
is like play. That's what we tell kids, you know what I mean? When we're like, "Guys, improv is just like what you used to play when you were 8 years old. Just, like, turn off the part of your brain that judges it and, like, get in there." And then,
Yeah.
of course, when, you talk to an adult, you're like, "Acting is play." Sometimes. Often, it's updating your website. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
they're embracing the part that's like, "We gotta go. We gotta jump off the cliff." And it's like they're like kids playing kid games, but they're like
Yeah, yeah.
adults with adult stakes.
Well,
And
and I
I
think
I love that.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's you kind of circled to it at the end, which is I think one of the most interesting things. So this is going to feel like a departure, but in Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, Jerry Seinfeld says something about how Hollywood is all built around meetings. It's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
we can have a great meeting. We had a great meeting. That was awesome. We're just going to go around and do meetings because as soon as somebody makes something, then everybody gets pissed and everybody has ideas and it starts to fall apart because now the thing exists and it's never
Yes.
as
It's
good as
not
it
just
was
the
in
the
the
potential of the idea.
exactly, and I feel that way all the time. I had a meeting with somebody about making some videos or something, and I was like, "This is a great meeting." It's probably gonna be like if we work together, maybe it'll be sad and we'll all be mad at each other. And then when we get in the shit of like making stuff, everybody has frustrating ideas and stuff. But like when we make these $20 movies, like we had the Batman for $20, and we're planning the
Ooh.
multiverse of madness for $20, and it's just so much fun sitting there and everybody riffing on jokes and we're just having a good time. And then when we start to the closer we get to making it, everybody's going to be frustrated.
Yep.
I mean,
Execution
it'll
sucks.
still be fun, but anyway, this movie feels a lot like a celebration of they're just like having meetings. It's all about the potential. I don't know that I guess the movie does get made ultimately, now that I think
Yes.
about it. But a lot of it is just like the fun of stuff. And they even get into the discussions of like, yeah, we should have a kidnapping, because, that'll sell the movie or whatever, like but then they don't go away from that, and that's actually what the movie has, both in the version that we're watching and the version that they make. It's just
Yes.
really interesting.
So, uh, I okay, I have this is my opinion, kind of the movie overall.
Okay.
I thought that the CIA premise was so fun. Love the idea of it.
Oh. Oh, okay.
I love that the elevator pitch of this movie is like Nick Cage has to go undercover as himself because he's
Right.
infiltrating his biggest fan. Cool.
Yeah.
I thought the writing of the CIA parts was like abysmally bad.
Mhm.
Where I was still having a really good time because the movie is really fun and it moves fast. So like we never like sat too long in the CIA bits until like the third
Right.
act, which was its worst act, I thought.
Yeah.
Um but before that, like when it was goofier, it was better. Like when he was trying to get into the security room and he'd like touched himself
Right.
with the incapacitating. Like the goofier it was, the closer it was to a comedy, the better. The
Yeah. Yeah.
more serious it got, the less I believed it and the less I thought the writing supported it like at all.
Yeah.
And to the point where I went to go see this with some friends and we all started texting each other later that night, um, making fun of how people texted in the movie, being like, "Hey, this is Vivian from CIA. Put me in your phone as CIA Vivian. Hey, are you next to the psychopath? Don't let him read this. This is Vivian, by the way, from the CIA." Like,
Right.
it's like, are you? The fact that like this whole thing was hinging on the fact that they were able to get wiretapped, I was like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
It was so
Well,
bad. Like that's so stupid.
it is, and you're right. It's not necessarily in a fun way. And even like all the people getting kidnapped and the just like inexplicably all these guards being like, I'm not going to shoot. I'm not going to shoot. I don't care how many people you stabbed or shot or whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
going to fire my gun if you're at close range. You're going to be able to defeat me somehow because you are a national treasure, I guess. And it's just it is that those parts, it definitely drags a little bit. And that's actually something that I wanted to talk about, which is one of the things that I think is really interesting about this movie is that it is a mid-budget action comedy in a way that we don't really get anymore. Like I don't feel like we get a ton of. We talked about this a little bit with I Love You Man, but we don't really get comedies with a budget more than an indie movie or whatever anymore.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting and it's so high concept. It feels like that's the only way to sell this kind of thing anymore. I don't know.
I
It's just
I
really
really
interesting
admire
genre.
the I really admire the target. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I and when it worked, I felt like it like really worked. And when the wheels came off the car, they came off the car like so hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I remember I was talking about it last night when I saw it, and I was like, my feeling of it is like when this movie is a carnival ride and it's like, okay, it's going to be a little crazy, but keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle at all
Yeah,
times and
yeah.
we'll have a good time. When that's happening, incredible, so fun, no notes. But when the ride comes to a halt, like they're not even dressed up as Donald Duck when they come fix the ride. You're just like, that's just a guy. He's just fixing my
Yeah.
wheels. The
Yeah,
the
yeah.
magic is gone. Like it just like to me, the parts that were not good were like so glaringly almost fixable. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you know like when something's not good because like it's almost fixable and you don't totally know how, but like you just wish it was like this much better because you
I
just feel
think
like that would help it?
so here's how I would have fixed a lot of this. I think okay, the scene where they're on LSD and they're scaling the wall,
Yeah.
it's very obvious. Like we know what's happening. We know he's going to find a way around. Like the joke is clear, but the execution is so good and so fun. You don't care. It's stupid. You know what's happening. It's not a joke that hasn't been told 1,000 times, but their commitment to the bit sells it for me. I
Yeah.
think that should have been all of it. The
Same.
whole thing is Nic Cage was on LSD and he's imagining everything. There's no CIA, nobody's getting kidnapped. It's just this
Uh-huh.
crazy fever dream that he's having because he's so wrapped up in himself. Like it could have been a whole different twist where like he just thinks he's just paranoid. He's like, I'm Nic Cage. Of course, they're trying to kidnap me for my
Yeah, of
money.
course I'm the millionaire we're talking to is a
Yeah.
psycho.
Or my talent or my whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
he is building all of these things into the fabric of whatever. And maybe he's getting drugged intentionally or there's something like that. But I think the fact that very literally the CIA was using him to infiltrate a very real cartel is such a weird ass premise to just be
Yeah.
like, no, 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 this is actually what's happening. We're gonna be funny about it, but like that that's happening. Like that I wrote that down and everybody was like, yeah, that makes sense. It's just such a weird
I
thing to commit
almost
to.
It is a weird thing to commit to. I almost am glad they did because it's, like, so weird to the point
Mm.
where I'm like, I
No.
definitely get what you're saying. I guess I'm sort of playing devil's advocate just, like, as a thought experiment
Okay.
because like, I want the movie that they wrote to work. Like, I want this to work. But,
Oh,
like,
sure.
to me, it was like again, I'm sorry that I talk about improv so much on this stupid podcast. I'm so sorry. But like it did like a lot of their dialogue and a lot of their justifications felt like what you say in an improv scene when you've seen like 4 episodes of like CSI and you don't know what else
Yeah,
to
yeah.
say. Like I'm guilty of it myself. Where like she was like, it's too late for an extraction. We can't do any extraction. The government won't let us. I was like, what? Like that can't be a valid response to an international crisis. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, there was
Well, that's why I wish
so
it
many
was.
things of that.
That's why I wish it was heightened in some way. Like some of that stuff is just like when she got kidnapped or whatever. I was like, I don't care about that. I don't
And
care.
also, like, how would they know? Like, his family arrived in Mallorca nigh on 4 hours ago. And
Right,
then when he like runs back and Sharon Horgan, his wife, is like, she went outside for 2 seconds and she got snatched. And I was like, how'd they know? Did they just snatch a girl? Did they know it was Nic Cage's daughter? They only just now found out Nic Cage was part of it. Did they
right.
Google image search Nic Cage plus daughter?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like everything about it, I was like, what is
Well, that's
happening?
what I guess that's what I'm saying is why introduce a bunch of plot holes into a script that you're committing to? I guess is my point. Like, why not? You could hand wave it all by being like, none of it was real, or only parts of it
Yeah.
were real, or whatever. I just felt like the fact that they're like, oh no, there's some high stakes CIA. They're like, do you not care about the president of Spain? And I'm like, no, I don't care about the
No.
president of Spain.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
it was just weird little things like that where I'm like, I can't tell if you're kidding with me or if you're actually trying to get me to care about the elections of the president of Spain. But also, is that legal? Can the whole country know that he's going to drop out because of like, do they not have laws for this? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. But yes, so I
Spain, who knows?
yeah, I do feel like there could have been a sillier version of this script where
It just is
we go
silly
down the
so often.
CIA rabbit hole really far, and then when we zoom out, he's like reading it with Javi for his family out loud. Do you know what I mean? And they're like performing this fake version of his life where when his wife and daughter come to visit, they get kidnapped, and then he saves them to prove how much he loves them, and they're like, "Nick, you're crazy." Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and they're
Like,
like,
what
and
if
then none of that really happened, but that was his fantasy of how he got closer with his family.
Yeah, it could be funny too. Like you do the first two acts, and then as soon as he introduces the kidnapping element, that's when you realize that part's been written. Like maybe the whole first part where
Yeah.
like what you're saying basically, but he goes to meet the fan and they have fun and they start talking about the thing and then they end up developing it. I mean, I don't know. Even that feels like an unnecessary rug pull, but it just feels I just kept being like, I don't care about this. I wrote in my notes, I was like, did it have to be an action comedy? Because all the things that I really liked about it, it had nothing to do with the action
Yeah. It
comedy
was also
other
funny because,
than
like, in the movie, they kept being like, it's an adult comedy
yeah,
with 2
right.
characters who we care about, and it is not like they just, like, kept saying what the movie wasn't gonna be,
Right.
and then this movie kinda, like, was it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was
Well,
intentional.
I think it was only because I think they're also trying to say, hey, Nick Cage has made a lot of blockbustery trashy action movies, and that's okay because you got to get kids in the door. That doesn't mean they have to be bad. I mean, he always says in
Yeah.
his interviews, he's like, "Yeah, maybe I did 38 movies last year, and all of them were made for $11, but that doesn't mean I wasn't trying." Like, as opposed to Bruce Willis with his aphasia, clearly doing it for a paycheck for right reasons, probably. Nick Cage is like, "No,
I'm an actor.
yeah, I really care about the Left Behind series. The
Yeah.
Rapture's real for now, while I'm making this movie." Um, and so, you know, I think that's what they meant to do. They're trying to celebrate all of Hollywood. It's a miracle that movies exist. Like it's a miracle that anything is worth watching. I think there's a way to do that without being like, and the president of Spain. We really care about him right now.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the comedic parts of the action were so fun too.
they
Like
were
the part where they changed shoes and then they were arguing about who was going to run to the car first because like
right.
you're faster than me, so even in bad shoes you'll be faster than me. Ah, but you might be slower than me, but now you have my kids. So like that was like so
Yeah, yeah,
great and stupid. And then the fact that like they love each other so much that they just end up running together anyway, like perfect.
right.
Perfect
Yeah.
little comedic action bit. And then the
Yes.
parts where it just was too much action and no comedy, it was like sort of badly justified and badly written slash researched. So it like felt like a kid's play.
Yeah, sure.
You know what
And
I mean?
I just think we're circling around this, but I just think there's a way to do that that's either funnier or more surprising Or yeah, I don't know, really lean into it and make the action surprisingly good or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
I was going to say the thing that the action does bring about, which I appreciated, because I'm going to always bring things back to being a dad, is
I thought you were gonna say The Raid too.
oh my God, have you seen it?
Now I have.
Yeah, I know. Yes, everything should be more like the Raid 2 or Everything Everywhere All at Once. That had great fight scenes too. Um, I actually really liked the daughter angle of it. Like I liked their little progression because I don't know. As a dad, again, I'm always willing to give these things even more leniency because I'm like imagining my kid being 9 and then being 16 and just how fun it would be to watch Paddington 2. My
Yeah. Are you gonna watch Paddington 2 with your daughters the instant it becomes available for them?
I
You should. It'll make you a
maybe
better man.
maybe want to be a better man. I mean that's the thing is so we didn't let my daughter watch anything until she was 2 because I don't know, studies claim that's good. And so now we've just started slowly. She just turned 3, but we've been introducing stuff. She watches short films. We'll watch like
Olaf's Frozen
Cinderella,
Adventure.
Olaf's Frozen
We
Adventure. We'll
know it.
watch
That's a fan fave.
Cinderella, but only the happy parts.
Of
Um,
course.
and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's already so great. Like literally yesterday morning, because it was Mother's Day, I got her and I let my wife sleep. And I was like, let's watch a movie because we're making too much noise. And she just like laid on my chest and watched Cinderella. And I was like, this is already so special. It's really cool to think about that when she's so much older and has more of a choice, you know? Like I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that was really appealing to me is that kids now they love me because who else are they gonna like? I give them everything. You know what I mean?
They have
Like
no
they
other
don't know
option.
anybody. Yeah, they don't know anybody else. But that idea of like a 16-year-old being like, I am effectively independent. I mean, sure, I may be here for another year or two or whatever, but that idea of still giving that love to her dad anyway, in a very understated, just head on the shoulder thing, which is of
Mhm.
course also a callback to what he said she did when she was 9. So
9 years old, right.
um, and then also, yeah, just understanding dad sucked sometimes. I really appreciated that little moment in the movie, and I felt like that relationship was great, even though it was relatively thin. Him and Pedro Pascal was great.
Great.
Even him and Sharon was pretty solid.
Yes, I thought so. I thought they had, like, great chemistry. I
She's
genuinely
great in
believe
everything too,
I
but
love her so much.
she's so
I
funny.
love her so much. I really felt they had chemistry, like, I
Mhm.
believed that they had been married, like, I believed that they
Yeah,
had, like, been in love as adults and, like, have, like, been through a life together. No, there's really, like, nothing wrong with the acting in the movie.
yeah.
Even, like, I thought that Tiffany Haddish's dialogue was impossible to act because it was, like, bad. I didn't even think she was bad. I just, like, thought she was
I
saying lines that I was like, "No human's ever said this and no human ever will. So I don't know how you say this believably. There's
it's
nothing to
also
believe."
It's also weird to cast her in the straight man role, kind of like she's the more serious cop as opposed to Ike Barinholtz, who's like,
Yeah. You know what's
I'm
did you watch
44 years
After
old.
Party?
No, I haven't.
They're both in After Party,
Oh,
weirdly.
interesting.
And she also is playing the quote unquote straight man of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole series, where she is the cop who's investigating everybody's alibis. And she's funny.
Interesting.
Like she has moments of funniness, but she like isn't like wacky.
Yeah.
And she is good at it. And she was really good at it in the After Party, which goes to
Okay.
show that like it's not really like a lack of talent on her part or anything. And it's not even a
Sure.
role she can't play. She like played it. It just like I don't know. What are you supposed to how are you supposed to act like, "Hey, did you do it yet? You
Yeah, I
didn't do
know.
it yet? I would
Well,
really love if you did it. Thanks.
that's
This is the
actually
CIA, by the way. Love you. Bye." Hang up.
so the other negative version of this shows up in a lot of superhero movies that are really long is and where they have multiple villains now. There's always scenes where not Thanos, his lesser villain shows up at Thanos' throne and is like, "So, I don't know if you saw the last movie. I did this and I did this." And Thanos is like, "Okay, well now you got to do this." And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled by this. Like the Snyder cut, they have a freaking Steppenwolf go back to Dark Side or whatever. And he's like, I found one of the mother boxes. He's like, well, you need to find the other
More
mother bot.
mother bots.
Yeah, and I'm like, I see how this movie got to 4 hours. We talked a lot about what is
Other mother
happening
bots.
actively. And so any movie, it's also a closer example to this is did you ever watch the Daredevil show?
Yes.
Where like
He has a sexy little code.
well, he does have a sexy little code, but it's the same thing with it's like people are always showing up being like, you gotta stop being Daredevil, Daredevil.
Yeah.
You gotta do this. And he's like, I'm not gonna not do it. The show ends if I stop being
Yeah.
Daredevil.
I don't know if
Stop
you know the
saying it.
title of the show, but it's Daredevil.
Yeah, it's like it's just introducing this conflict where there's one character being like, "Do this or don't do this," and it's like, I already know the choice they're making. Stop telling me that
Yeah, that there's
there's no
ever any
tension
chance that
here.
they're not going to.
Yeah. Anyway, that
Yeah.
stuff just annoys the crap out of me. And so yeah, I think maybe that's why I hated that part was too many people being like, you can't stop because of Spain. You got to go here because of Spain again.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
or
know.
he'd be like, "We're in a crisis. I'm in too deep." And she'd be like, "You can't be because there isn't enough time."
Yeah, the CIA committed all of 2 people to this very important mission, and it all hinges on a famous movie star agreeing to, be a part of it. And here's what's dumb, right? We shouldn't be arguing plot holes. It should be so dumb that you don't even think about it, but they're too into it. That's
Fully
the thing.
agree. Like, it needed to be either 20% stupider, more just like, "Don't ask, it's a stupid," like, why would we argue about plot holes?
Yeah,
It's a comedy. Or 20% smarter, slightly better research, slightly better justified,
right.
whatever. And it was neither, which is like why we're sitting here being like, "What if it was serious? What if it wasn't serious?" It's like, well, obviously
Right.
the answer is either. It just like isn't
Yeah,
neither.
I don't wanna think about the plot holes in a movie of Nick Cage playing Nick Cage, starring Nick Cage as Nick Cage.
Exactly.
It's like, it doesn't make any sense, but then it's like really wants me to care. Anyway, we're getting too into the weeds. Um, one of the things I think was really interesting just as far as background, and this is something that Jesse usually brings, but he's being lazy somewhere, so I'm gonna come up with it. Nick Cage did not wanna do this movie. They
Yeah.
brought it to him like 4 times, and they're like, "Nick Cage, this is pretty silly. You're pretty silly, right?" And he's like, "I'm not that silly. I'm Nick Cage. I'm still an actor. I still care about myself." And eventually the director had to write him like a handwritten letter to be like, "Please, Nick Cage, I promise to do you right." And even after, and he was like, "Fine." And then after he filmed it, he was still like, "I think this was a bad idea." I'd be curious. I don't know if anybody's followed up with him. I wonder what he feels like now,
I
or if
mean,
it's
like,
just another of his billion movies and he's moved on. He doesn't care.
even though I have spent 15 minutes critiquing the movie, I definitely don't think it was like a bad idea for Nick Cage because my overwhelming impression of the movie was how fun is it that Nick Cage exists? Genuinely. Like, we were walking home and I was like, isn't it nice that we let Nick Cage still be famous? Not because like he's not good and we're like doing him a favor, but because just like we as an audience really get particular about like what kind of actor we're into.
Hmm.
And Nick Cage is unclassifiable as any kind of actor, which is like the point of this movie and like something he talks about a lot in the meta of the movie.
Right.
And I'm just like glad that we just like haven't lost our taste or our this sounds like a read, but I do mean it as a compliment. Sometimes in his movies, you feel like you're watching a car crash where you're like, it's so horrific that you can't look away. And
Yeah.
I'm like obsessed with the fact that we just like still have a taste for that. Like, no matter what the role is, if he's being like a romantic lead or if he's doing like Con Air, we're just like, what's this man up to? And so, like, I don't think this movie was a failure on his part, even if I have critiques with it,
Sure.
because what it made me think was, I am glad Nick Cage is alive.
So
Like, that's what I feel.
I agree. I actually think the best thing that this movie does, it made me kind of appreciate Nick Cage more because he does a lot more of his weird line reads that he does in every movie, but
Yes.
they just really lean into it even more so. Like are you just sending me on a wild goose chase or whatever? He like, no, the emphasis makes no sense. And I think what's interesting about it is actually a thing that I didn't really love about Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I'm just going to go into this really quick, which is we were talking again because we're going to do that for $20, and we were all talking about the movie. And I was saying the thing that I didn't love about Sam Raimi's directing style, and I know a lot of people love it, is he does so many wacky camera moves and things to go, do you know you're watching a movie? You're watching a movie.
Mhm.
This is a movie. The camera goes "Ugh," like right in your face, or he'll have these like fade to blacks where it does a circle over somebody's head, and you're like, I get it. We're watching a movie. And I think Nic Cage does a similar thing with acting, which is like, well, obviously nobody talks like this. Um, like nobody miss emphasizes goose like that
Yeah.
without intentionally meaning to. Um, and I do think even in Moonstruck, which we, is one of the first movies that we did, he's just so watchable because he's so inhuman almost.
Yes.
Like it's
It's
just
it's like
not like
vulnerable.
yeah,
We use the word vulnerable to mean something positive in terms of like it was so raw. She was so
sad.
soft, sad. But like
Right,
he's vulnerable in a way that's like scary.
right.
And I like love that. Like I don't know many actors who like are in touch with that. And the fact that he's like a believable romantic interest in Moonstruck, but you're also like horrified by who he is as a person. I remember when we were talking about it, we were like, I would fully believe at the end of this movie, he was like, and also, by the way, I'm a werewolf. We would
Right.
have been like, absolutely, you are. That makes perfect sense with everything
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
learned about you through this course of this movie. I'm glad you're marrying Cher. Like,
yeah.
I'm still glad you're marrying Cher, despite that information.
Right.
I just think he has a quality that, like, I mean, like, thank God he decided to do the movie because I don't know who else could have done the movie. Like, it obviously was
Yeah.
written with him in mind. I don't know if they would have let the script die if he had said no. I don't know if they would have tried to find another actor
Well, it's
to
so
build it around to justify it, but I don't know if one even exists.
yeah. Yeah, I just maybe sorry, I just thought too. Have you ever seen Matchstick Men by any chance? It's
No.
actually that's top tier Nick Cage. It's actually really, really good. It's got Sam Rockwell, who also is the best.
Oh, got a
Um,
Tony nomination this morning.
oh, good job,
I know that just
Sam.
as his foremost fan, I wanted you to know that.
I'm up there. I'd like
I
he's
know.
great.
That's what I'm saying. You should
Um,
know that he's got a Tony. Now you can start pounding the pavement so he wins his
yeah.
Tony Award.
There's a scene where he's on meds, some kind of meds, some kind of antipsychotics or something, and he goes up and he's twitching because he's like losing it. He goes up to the counter. He's like, I need a refill, and the guy behind him is like, Hey, there's a line, and he turns around. He's like, God, what is it? He's like, How about I take you? He's like, How about I take you outside and then I beat you until you piss blood, and it's just like the craziest line read. And anyway, this movie just reminded me, I'm like, oh, I've seen a lot of his movies, and I never quite think about how weird he is in all of them. You just kind
Yeah.
of buy it. Anyway, it's just we don't have a lot of actors like that. We have actors that are really great for some reason or another, but usually it's to create some sort of believable persona. And he's like, it's Jim Carrey's a little bit like that, where he just like is in a movie and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening, but it doesn't feel like real life most of the
Yeah.
time because he's wearing a mask or he's attacking Sonic or whatever. He tends to pick those movies, but
Sonic.
Nick Cage is like in an action movie or a romantic comedy or whatever, and he's still just nuts.
Yeah.
Yes, Michael Dieter's Matchstick Men is amazing. It's got a really good twist.
Ooh.
It's great. It's all
Okay, I'll watch it. Don't tell me
he's
the
a
twist.
he's a con man, right? It's like him and Sam Rockwell are con men, and they do cons. It's great.
Is this Con we're talking about Con Air? I'm just kidding.
Yes, it's the sequel.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Cool.
He's
And
just
this movie helped me
special.
appreciate that, I guess is my
Yeah.
point. Because they lean into that. Little Nicky keeps showing up to be like, "Hey, man," it's a little bit like Birdman in that way too, where
Yes.
he's like his alter
He's,
ego's
like,
like, "Come on,
talking to
man,
his
we're a
ego,
god."
kind of,
Yeah,
yeah. I like
Birdman
that
is
they kept
also one of my
saying,
favorites.
I love Birdman, but I love that they kept saying, like, "We're back." Not that we ever left. Like, that was,
Right,
like, a very fun through line
right,
for the whole movie. I did
yeah,
like that he was talking to Nikki, who's, like,
yeah,
his, like, brash, younger self, who's just kind of his ego,
right.
essentially.
Hmm.
One of the tidbit things that I looked up, it said, "A sequence involving Nicolas Cage reprising some of his most iconic roles like Face Off, Con Air, Leaving Las Vegas, and Gone in 60 Seconds was featured in a long black and white fight sequence between him and his younger self in a surrealist German expressionist set evoking the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which was cut from the film as the studio thought it didn't fit the third act. According to Cage, the deleted scene will be released on home media. I am very
Oh,
excited to see it.
that is exciting.
I mean, you can tell where it's supposed to be. Remember how like there was like a moment where he like went into like pew, it was like black at his mind, and then like
Right.
he was just like it was just him and Nikki, and it like did feel like something bigger was gonna happen, but it didn't. Like I was like, oh, that's where that would have been. I kind of wish it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
there.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is if they had leaned into more of those sort of weird asides and less of the CIA plotting, I don't think anybody would have missed it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think too,
no one's gonna leave this movie and be like, the CIA stuff was
yeah,
airtight.
I do think that's weird when you think about a movie like this that is sort of built on a meme, right? That Nic Cage is kind of memeable and people talk about Nic Cage because isn't he wacky? It is interesting to hold back some of that weirdness that somebody's going to go to Twitter. Like you're seeing this with Doctor Strange now. People are like, wow, that was all Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi is a wacky boy. For nobody, like to your point, nobody's going to Twitter and being like, "Oh my god, there's this CIA plot," and I was like so invested in Spain.
Exactly. It
Um,
is totally secondary to getting more Nick Cage funniness on screen.
yeah,
100%. Um,
yeah,
so yes, I agree. That's like something I like wish had stayed in just because like, yeah, the cage heads are gonna love it. It's for the cage heads.
right. Although to be fair to everyone, it's not making very much money. Looks like it might not make back its budget, and unless it like blows up on home video or something.
Mm.
So there were mistakes made somewhere. Somebody was some of the analysts believe that it's courting the same audience as The Northman, which is, I mean, like I
What?
guess it's like indie
I mean,
men
I could not see this
audiences.
being at all the same audience.
I think
I mean, I guess like
demographically,
demographically, but
right?
like in terms of tone or appeal or anything, I
Yeah,
think in a way they should almost go lean into it more and do like the room style nights where you come dressed up as your favorite Nick Cage
yeah,
character
yeah, yeah.
and get it more into the hands of like the cult audience.
Yeah, like I know Alamo Drafthouse has done like Nick Cage festivals or whatever, where they show
Yeah.
like 5 Nick Cage movies at once, and like you could always end with this movie because it's the celebration of all the other movies. Like it could be that kind of thing.
Wait,
Um,
did you feel a little excited when they were like, "Is that the chainsaw from Mandy?" And I was like, "I
yeah,
just saw him.
and they didn't
I
even mention.
know
Yeah, they
him."
didn't mention the huge axe from Mandy. There's a lot of Mandy stuff in that room.
I don't think Pedro Pascal could get the axe. I'm so sorry. I don't think he could get it. I think it was only wasn't available.
No, it's in the movie.
It was
That's what I'm
there?
saying.
Oh my
That's what I'm
god.
saying.
Well, then this movie sucked. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Great. Do you have any other things that you wanted to hit? Any other points that you had?
I mean, like something that I've been thinking about. I tried to read a couple little reviews and things. Um, I only saw this last night, so I'm still sort of like processing my feelings. I do think it has like some fun things to say about Hollywood in that like a lot of times when movies are about somebody who's like down and out in Hollywood, it usually is because of their like behavior.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of times it's like you're just not hip enough, kid, or it's like you acted badly on set because you have a big ego and you need to be taken down a peg. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I did like that this movie was literally just like, no, nothing's like there's a lot wrong in Nick Cage's personal life.
Right.
And probably if he figured that out, his professional life would be better. I like that message. But also that they were like, "Hey, dude, you're not like a bad actor or anything. People just like don't want you right now." And that he was like, "That's not fair. I'm good. I have like a lot of talent and my talent is acting and all I want to be is doing the thing I'm good at." And they were just sort of
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, but you've done 7 movies, so we're sort of oversaturated on the Nick Cage thing. We can't have you right now."
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like I liked that because it sort of took away some of that thing of like, oh boo-hoo, isn't it so hard to be rich and famous? Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Which I think is like I do understand when people's criticism of a movie about like a movie star who came to set drunk and he blew it. They're like, I didn't like him from the beginning because like if I was rich, I'd be better. I'd be like, I get that. I probably would be too. I
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
would be a lot better about all that stuff. I like that he's like not like a he's not like a bad guy. He's just not
Yeah,
wanted right now. And he's like mad and he's having a crisis because he wants to do the thing he was born to do.
right. I, it is interesting. I know I already mentioned Birdman. The more that you talk about it from that perspective, it does kind of feel like Birdman, but Birdman escapes all the action. Like, it just knows that it is a weird indie movie, and it's just like it's about to play.
Yeah.
But it's that same thing. It's the struggling with what art matters, what is a good story, all that kind of stuff. And then now that we're older, these actors, now that they're older, where do they fit in that ecosystem? Are they still valuable? Stuff like that.
Right.
It's just that Michael Keaton chooses to do a play, and Nic Cage goes to some dude's house for a birthday party and like maybe a sex thing.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, yeah, no,
Also,
I
this
think
was really fun, whatever this is.
yeah, I didn't know
don't
what that was. I
Me
was like
neither.
worried.
I was like, is
Yeah.
that a reference? But like, I don't think it is. I think it was just Nic Cage just being himself.
Pedro Pascal just like going along with it.
Yeah,
'Cause
going along with it.
that's
I
what he's supposed to
really
do.
all that stuff. When this movie is funny, it's so fucking funny.
It
Like
really is.
I loved him being on the boat and being so self-absorbed that he like is like on the boat with the guy who's his who has invited him, but he's like talking to his agent. And then when he gets off, he's
Right.
like, "Hey, am I supposed to like this better not be a sex thing. I don't want to fuck this
Yeah.
guy. I don't want to fuck this guy's wife. I don't want him to watch me fucking his wife. I don't want him to watch me fucking him or his wife
Yeah, yeah.
watches." And he's like, "That's not like all that
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
was great. I just wanted
I
more of
agree.
it." Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Let's throw this to audience questions.
Yeah.
See where we get. If anything's good. Starred. Somebody says the title should be Dickless Rage. Okay.
Okay, interesting. Did they say that in the movie? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Oh, Nicolas Cage. Dickless Rage.
Yeah.
I got it now.
Is it Captain Wayne Baconator Adgerton
Okay.
asks, is it the ghostwriter in his head? And no, we actually talked about this before we started filming, but we
Yes.
didn't. It's there's an interview that he did before promoting Wild at Heart, the David Lynch movie, and he looks like that, and he's kind of douchey and cocky, and so it's that character. It's him in
Yeah.
1990 giving an interview. It's not a movie character per se. It's that guy.
He
kind
also
of.
was like kind of costumed like Vampire's Kiss, which was also around the same time. I think it's just supposed to sort of be like evoking a lot of his younger persona, even if it's not like one specific role.
Yeah. Keith Thornley says, if you read the plot in a newspaper, you would probably think, yeah, this is probably true. This probably happened. It's a mockumentary about himself. Somebody else said that too. Oh, I'm skipping through things that I clicked. Somebody's just saying about Pascal Sock 66. Kate, the way. Never mind. I'm gonna skip that. Cage has to be the straight.
Are we talking
man.
about Are we talking about how sexy he is?
Yeah. No.
Is that why you're skipping? Because you're afraid?
What did you guys think of Neil Patrick Harris in this as Michael Dieters? He's also kind of known for playing himself, a la
Yeah,
Harold and
he has
Kumar
sort of
Sanders.
weirdly made a niche out of playing himself, but not at all like himself. Like he's made a niche of playing himself, but as like a rich asshole.
I thought he was going to be Neil Patrick. I thought it was just going to be his friend.
Yeah, I thought it was
at
his friend
first.
Neil Patrick Harris, and instead
Yeah.
it was his agent with a very Jewish last name.
Well,
A very Jewish name just in general. I was like, okay, interesting.
it is weird to cast. The problem with any movie where somebody is playing themselves is if you get any other super recognizable actor, you immediately just assume that they're
That
themselves
it's
as well.
they're themselves.
As far as I can tell,
I would have
literally
liked it
nobody
if it
else
was
in
like
this world was real, right?
yeah, Ike Barinholtz wasn't Ike Barinholtz, except for
Right,
Demi
yeah.
Moore. At one point, they were like, "How'd you get Demi Moore for the movie?" She was like the
Okay.
only other like actress like name
Right.
dropped in the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
Those are
very
the only
funny.
two people that exist.
Yeah, they're the only actors in the world. They book a lot of work. I kind of wanted the agent to be somebody more like a Richard Kind type character. I don't know why. That's just like who I was
Yeah.
picturing.
Right, sure. I mean, I feel like he's probably played somebody's kind of skeezy agent, or like
Yes,
down on
he
their.
does it.
Not
He
even
does it on
skeezy,
the
just down
other
on their
two. Have you
luck.
ever watched the other two?
I have. I've seen.
He's like Carrie's agent, who's like also an Uber driver and also
Okay.
working at like a
Right.
like that's like who I'm picturing more. I don't know.
All right. Michael Dieters again says, I feel like this movie only worked because each half, the action and the comedy leaned on each other, because it's not quite funny enough for a comedy, and it's not quite enough plot for action, but together not bad. I actually think the comedy was good enough that I wish there was more of it,
Yes.
and just less action
I think if the
generally.
movie had I really agree with the sentiment of this critique.
Yeah,
I
sure.
just think that, like, the comedy worked 80% of the time and the drama worked 20% of the time. So it's like, I think it's so right that it's like they don't neither works without the other, but it's like one's really doing the heavy lifting as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. Sir Alexander Watson Tucker said, "Does anyone else feel like Nikki could have been utilized better? Like, it seems like a huge missed opportunity. I want to see him go full Nikki." I don't know
I
what
just
your
wanted more, like we were
Gonzo.
saying, that thing that was cut that like was more like he's haunted by the cage of
Yeah,
Nicholas
yeah,
past.
right. I do think that would have been cool. It could have been interesting if he did more explicit, like taking on things that he'd learned. Like he goes full national treasure on somebody, like uses the Mandy axe and stuff like that. Could have
Yeah.
been interesting, but I don't
I'm
know.
gonna pitch that's now my title for a movie. Cage of Nicholas Past.
Ooh, all right. Yeah, write that down.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, David Williamson says, yeah, Matt Murdock, blind lawyer, doesn't have the same appeal. Similarly, Michael Deere says, Punisher was the same way. Everyone quit killing the Punisher.
Yeah. Yeah, stop. Hey, the Punisher, stop punishing.
Yeah, it's like,
I don't like what you're doing, the Punisher. Do something else.
yeah, it's like you need to have reasons that he wants to stop punishing that
Yeah.
exist besides
And
his
he'll
mom.
never stop punishing.
Yeah, his mom being like, hey, it's like morally not great to kill people. And he's like,
It's
I
like, I
know,
know.
but that's
I
my name.
know.
Rather than just constantly, yeah, Daredevil's like, you're so injured. You've been punched so many times. Stop. Because
That's kind of part of his sexy little code. You can't ask somebody to change their code that makes them who they are.
I know, but it's also like the stakes are never that high. He's not a dad. He's just like going to die someday because he gets punched so hard. And it's like,
You don't care about his life because he's not a dad?
eh, eh,
It's not. Is it not merely enough that he's a sexy little man walking this earth?
that's fine, but it's just the stakes are. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I don't know. He's got like his interpersonal relationships.
Yeah,
His friends
he
are
has
his
two
family.
friends.
He has two friends, and he really loves them a lot. Okay.
Yes. Michael Dieters again. Nic Cage's skill is getting into movies where there are believable reasons he should be acting as crazy as he is. That's true. He does tend to, like, even in Moonstruck, they're like, and your hand's gone.
Yeah, and it's made you crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's a romantic comedy. It's funny almost to imagine that being written in later. He's like, I'm gonna go pretty nuts. So you got to give me a reason.
Is there a reason? It's like, oh, what if you lost your hand in a deli slicing?
Yeah, and who knows what that does to you? So you can do anything you want. John Evans says, as a insanely famous superstar that I am, and being as popular and rich as I am, and as many movies as I am, it's actually not that hard to be cool. Good to know.
See, and that's why I'm saying that is when the premise of a movie is, I'm just so famous, I had to act badly because I'm trapped. I think people just, especially at this moment in time, are like, oh, woohoo, that really sucks for you. And I did sort of like that this movie didn't engage with like, Nic Cage is an asshole on set. He's a big piece of shit to everybody he meets because he's so famous. Like, he definitely has like asshole-ish behavior, which is like immediately called out and like highlighted as being kind of asshole-y, but he's not an asshole because he's famous. He's an asshole because he's conceited, I guess. Like,
well, he also just like really,
but like,
yeah, he also just like really cares about movies and stuff, and he's having a hard time finding other people that care about what he cares about, which is all that he cares about, and that's part of the thing. Cool. Let's see. Anything else? Can I punish your business, Daddy? I don't know what that is.
That's a question for Jordan.
For paying me less than I deserve. Oh, it's a kind thing. Thank you for being
kind,
good. Jonathan.
Woo! we were close there, but it
all
seemed.
Right. Yeah. Let's do some alternate titles.
Yeah.
Allie, You got anything for us?
I mean, I said Cage of Nicholas Pass by mistake, but I really am into it. There's, of course, in Jesse's honor, Nic Cage and Javi's Infinite Playlist.
So we could just hop to this. Michael Dieter said, because Jesse is out, we've got
Yeah!
Nick and Javi's Unbearable playlist.
Oh, that's even better. That's great.
Or
Thank you.
Novo Shamanic, or I don't know how you
Yeah,
pronounce
he kept
that.
saying like Novo Shamanic. It was
Yeah,
so.
that's
It
his.
was. I
That's
something I'd
his
never heard
acting
before.
style. He said that in his interviews.
Yeah.
That's why they're saying it. So that exclamation point at the disco. Maybe it should be at the Spain.
Mallorca.
At the Mallorca.
At the cliffside.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I don't know how to spell that, but Shamanic at the cliffside.
I mean, like,
What else you got? Anything?
it is like sorry, this isn't a title, I apologize. But like it is fun when you hear about somebody talk about a weird acting process that isn't just inherently being an asshole. Cause like everyone's like right now the whole discussion is about like I'm method acting. So I need to be horrible to you because my character's horrible. And it's like, oh, that sounds like you're a bad coworker. I can't imagine that that's useful for anybody. So when you do hear about somebody else with like a weird process that is like weird on their own terms, but not necessarily like harmful, it is like cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read about Nic Cage's whole thing. Kirsten Dunst recently talked about how she does a lot of like dream work when she's like still in early stages of working on a character, where she will like sort of like meditate and like do a lot of work where she's getting into like sort of like a meditative state and then like allow herself to go to sleep and sort of like dream as the character or like let images come to her. And then like she'll like sort of like try to extrapolate what she learned from dreaming. And the reason that she says she likes it is because when she's like using her conscious mind, it's very easy to judge it as being like stupid or like, oh, that was dumb. That was such a dumb thought. But like if it comes to you in a dream or if it comes to you sort of like subconsciously, like how can you be like, you're stupid, subconscious? Like you have to just sort of accept it as whether or not you want to use it or like however you choose to parse it. It's harder to like just initially just judge it and say like, I don't like this. I've decided it's dumb. I've decided I'm going to shut that out. And so she'll like, you know, in a dream, see the way her character walks and she'll be like, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to like adopt that pace and like see what it feels like to like walk as the character this way. Or she'll see them in a blanket and then go to the props department and be like, I'd love to like have a shawl or something that this character can have because I feel like she wants to close off. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, like Jared Leto, he poops weird because his character's sick.
Yeah, he poops weird and has to send it to his castmates because his character said so.
Similar things. Jesse Eisman says brainstorm exclamation point at the compound.
I mean, they did do a lot of brainstorming.
You're fired, Jesse. Bren Kelly says the unbearable weight of massive debt.
I know.
I like
it's
that.
good. But I've just criticized this movie so much, but like I am rooting for it because like anytime something that gets made that is weird, I'm like, I just want it to succeed terribly because like I just want us to be able to make more weird stuff.
Oh, 100%.
I would love to see more weird stuff. So like I embrace this movie and I hope it finds like a cult audience and I don't know, makes money. Runs every
100%.
year.
Any other anything else title wise from you?
From me? From the ultimate loser at coming up with titles? No.
Okay. I had not that you went anywhere. It made me want to be a better man.
Yeah.
Because of the way that I felt about him and his daughter. And woo, Cage, whatever Nikki keeps yelling.
Yeah.
Is friggin' woo, Cage. Really enjoyed that. Very insane.
Yeah, me too.
Very delightful.
We're getting again some naked HD in here.
It's like I'll go later.
Yeah, like guys, I'm in the middle of a stream. Like,
yeah.
They need to learn how to time them better when they want us.
I know every time they post that, you see like 50 users just immediately drop off because they're
they don't have to go.
Yeah. Good grief, naked.
I love those ads
HD.
That are like, this game is so insane. You will never believe what you see in this game. Because I've never clicked the link because I assume they're not real and they're all just like spam that are going to get your computer to be dead. But like, I would love to know what would be a game a porn game on your computer that would blow your mind. That was really good.
Thanks.
I'm trying to click it.
I've blocked them, Jose, 4,000 times. They
Yeah, they
keep coming
keep
back.
changing their it's like you'll see the titles are slightly different. They
It's
just really
also, it's
want
like
us to go jerk off.
they strip without clothing. It's amazing.
Yeah. So what's like? What are they starting in?
All
It's
right.
crazy.
One final question from the Francis Canator. What is their names are so hard. Is what is their favorite Nic Cage performance ever? What is his best performance
Ooh.
ever?
I think there's a strong case that Raising Arizona is his best performance ever.
Yeah.
I think there's a really strong case for that. I don't know if it's my favorite. I have to like think about what my favorite is, but like I really think that that's up there.
Yeah. I think that's up there. I haven't seen Pig, so I don't know.
I haven't seen Pig yet either.
That's one that everybody says is one of his best ever. It's funny because the most memorable one for me is Family Man of all the movies in the world that Nic Cage has been in. Have you seen The Family Man?
Yes, I have.
I've seen that movie like 15 times. It's just one of those movies that we watched as a kid every Christmas, and so that's Nic Cage to me.
Yeah.
But my favorite is Matchstick Men because I just love that movie. I think it's crazy.
I mean, like Face Off might be like my favorite just because like it is so very
that's true.
so very Nic Cage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how can you get more Nic Cage than that?
And that's a movie that is leaning into the craziness, the comedy of it, and the freaking fight scenes are sweet. It's pretty cool.
I liked that this movie kept being like he was great in The Croods, and the other guy being like, why would I know The Croods? Like I'm 40. Like that's not my point of reference. However, I do think Nic Cage is really good in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think he does a really good performance.
I'm sure. I don't really remember it.
You don't? He was the noir.
I know
one.
who he was. He was noir, but I just
he was great. He's like as always, just really very good.
Yeah, he is good in pretty much everything. Great. I think that's pretty much it. So let me do this real quick. So we're live streaming every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and next week is Mystery Men. If you haven't seen that, the 90s not quite classic because nobody saw it except me as a kid somehow, and probably Jesse.
Definitely Jesse. There's no way Jesse didn't have a weird bowling ball because he saw Mystery Men. There's no way. I don't think he's even here to defend himself, so I'm absolutely just gonna rip into this young man.
I mean, Jesse was probably like 33 by the time it came out, but yeah. So where can we find you, Allie?
Oh, you're talking to me. Yeah, there's no Jesse here. I'm on Twitter at Miss Alice Nutting, MSALICENUTTING. I am alive.
Oh.
Thank you. It's been hard. And so I was just, proud of little accomplishment and performing sometimes in New York City when the world isn't shutting down. So if you're interested in that, you can follow me on Twitter. I'll post about whenever those things happen to be.
Excellent. I am on Twitter at _J_breeding. I also do, cracked video content. So like watch it, please. By the way, Allie is in our gender swap show.
Yeah, that's something to plug.
Yeah, it's
we got 2 episodes up. They're very different from each other, which I think is fun.
They're very spicy.
They're very spicy.
Some people get what we're trying to do, some don't, and they're very upset by it. But they seem to understand the second one a lot better than the first one. So we're getting there.
Well, I feel like you can't do something about Star Wars and not assume that somebody won't watch it and then just based on the title be like, I disagree. That's just how it be. You know what I'm saying?
And that's how kind they say it. They're
very much so. People are loving. People on the internet are more polite and more kind because they know that tone is sort of unparsable. So they go out of their way to make sure that what they're going to say is like understandable on a lot of levels, fair, spell checked, all those things.
Yeah. I love my job. Okay, so please subscribe to Cracked Movie Club on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify because we also do an audio. We release this as an audio version a week from today, or wherever you get your podcast. And remember that we also exist as a newsletter for now. So sign up.
You better hurry up and read it based on Jordan's tone.
Yeah, slash movie club. I don't know if it's gonna live forever. I'm not actually in charge of it, but the guy who is might not. Well, just sign up for it. It's great.
Yeah.
And if not, come see us on Monday next week.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about
Watch
Mystery
Mystery
Men.
Men, and we'll talk about Jesse's childhood
Certainly, almost certainly.
versus my childhood
I
and
can
Allie's
remember
childhood.
I can remember watching this movie at a friend's house.
I
So,
watched it with my whole family like 10
wow.
times. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, that's it. No, Jonathan Litt, I can't see you. Goodbye, everyone.
Oh, sorry, Jonathan.
Bye. You're welcome. One last,
You're back.
just
We're
for the
back.
fans.
You're back.
All right, bye.